You'll think I'm insane. Most people do when I tell this story, so I don't tell it often. It's easier to let them think I was just another tourist who got lost in the Sahara, that my friends died from exposure or dehydration, and that I somehow by pure luck made it back alive. But that's not the truth. The desert didn't kill them, something else did. We called it a trip of a lifetime. One of those reckless adventures you take when you're young and stupid, when you believe you're invincible because the world hasn't yet had the chance to break you. There were 4 of us, me, my best friend Ryan, his girlfriend Claire, and our buddy Daniel. We were all from the States, college kids with backpacks, cameras, and a taste for places that felt untouched. Morocco was Claire's idea. She studied anthropology and was obsessed with the idea of the desert being this ancient, mystical place where stories and spirits still lingered. We flew into Marrakesh, spent a few days getting drunk on mint tea and colours, and then booked a tour into the Sahara. That was the plan: a guide, camels, a camp under the stars. But the tour got cancelled at the last minute. The driver fell sick or something, and instead of waiting, Ryan insisted we rent a jeep and do it ourselves. "You've got GPS," he said. "It's 2025, not 1825. How hard can it be?" Looking back, that was the first mistake. The Sahara is not like the postcards, sure. There are rolling dunes of golden sand that look endless and romantic in pictures, but that's only part of it. Mostly, it's emptiness, flat stretches of rock and dust, a silence so deep it presses against your ears until you start imagining sounds that aren't there. During the day, the sun feels like a living thing, burning through your clothes, sucking the water out of you. At night, it's the opposite. The cold bites so hard you shiver in your sleeping bag, even though you were sweating hours before. We drove farther than we should have, chasing some ruin Claire read about online, a place that might have been a caravanserai centuries ago, or maybe just a cluster of collapsed walls. I don't even know if it existed, but we believed her. 2 days in, the sandstorm hit. If you've never been inside a sandstorm, you can't imagine it. One moment the horizon was clear, the next it was swallowed by a wall of dust racing toward us. It was like the desert decided to rise up and smother us. Ryan floored the jeep, but the storm was faster. Within seconds, day turned to rust-colored night. Sand poured through every crack, clawing at our eyes and throats. I remember Claire screaming, Daniel cursing, and me clinging to the dashboard, thinking this was how people vanished in the Sahara, swallowed whole, erased. When it passed, the GPS was dead. The jeep's engine coughed, half choked with sand, and the road, if you could call the dirt tracks we followed a road, was gone. We were lost. We argued. Of course we did. Ryan wanted to keep driving in what he swore was west. Daniel said we should wait until sunrise and use the stars to navigate. Claire thought we should ration water and walk back the way we came. I just wanted out. That night, we camped by the jeep, too exhausted to do anything else. I couldn't sleep. The desert is loud in its own way, winds whispering over the dunes, the occasional crack of rock shifting, the eerie sense that something is always moving just beyond your sight. At some point after midnight, I swore I heard crying. A woman's crying. I sat up, heart hammering. It wasn't close, it came faint, carried on the wind. I thought maybe Claire had wandered off, but when I checked, she was curled beside Ryan, Daniel too, all asleep. I told myself I imagined it. But I didn't sleep again. By dawn, we were walking. The jeep was half buried, and none of us trusted it to go farther. We packed water, some food, and started east. At least we thought it was east. The sun made us dizzy, shadows stretched in ways that felt wrong. Hours bled into each other, my lips cracked. Claire kept mumbling facts about nomads and jinn, like she was giving a lecture nobody asked for. It was late afternoon when we saw her. At first, she looked like a mirage, a bent figure at the edge of the rocks, wrapped in ragged cloth. She was waving her arms, stumbling toward us. As she came closer, We saw she was an old woman, her skin darkened by sun, her frame thin as sticks. She cried out in Arabic, words we didn't understand, and collapsed to her knees. "Holy shit," Ryan said. "She needs help." Claire rushed forward, pulling her water bottle. The old woman grabbed it with trembling hands, spilling half of it down her chest as she drank. Her eyes were strange, too wide, too reflective, like an animal's caught in headlights. She pointed toward a cluster of rocks, murmuring urgently. Claire translated as best as she could, piecing together bits of French and Arabic. She says, "Her family, lost, in the caves, That word stuck in my head like a thorn. We followed her. Of course we did. What else were we supposed to do? Leave an old woman in the desert to die?" The rocks rose like teeth out of the sand, jagged and black. As we climbed, shadows stretched long, and the air turned cold. The woman moved quicker than I expected for her age, darting ahead, glancing back to make sure we followed. The caves were real dark mouths in the stone. She led us to one of them, gesturing wildly, muttering words that made no sense to me. Claire was convinced. She was saying her children were trapped inside. Inside. The cave smelled wrong. Not like earth or dust, but like something sour, rotting. My stomach twisted. The walls glistened as if wet, though no water ran there. "Hello," Ryan called. His voice echoed, hollow, too loud. There was no answer. Only the woman's breath, wheezing as she backed into the shadows. I don't know when I realized it, but something was off. Her stooped back wasn't as hunched anymore. Her movements weren't clumsy, but deliberate, almost predatory. When she turned, for a heartbeat, I thought I saw her jaw stretch too far, her teeth too long. I blinked, and she was an old woman again, muttering, clutching her rags. "Guys," I whispered, "we should leave," but it was too late. Her crying started again, louder now, echoing in the cave until it sounded like dozens of voices weeping. Ryan and Claire rushed toward her, trying to help, trying to understand. Daniel swore under his breath, pulling me back, but even he was drawn forward by that sound. And then she straightened. Her back cracked as she rose to her full height, impossibly tall. The rags fell away, revealing limbs too long, skin grey and stretched. Her mouth split wide, teeth jagged and yellow, dripping with saliva. Her eyes, God help me, those eyes shone like twin coals in the dark. The old woman was gone. What stood before us was the Ghoula. Her back cracked as she rose to her full height, impossibly tall. The rags slid away, and what stood before us was no woman at all, but something ancient, grey-skinned, with arms too long, teeth jagged and dripping, and eyes burning like coals in the dark. The Ghoula. I wish I could say we ran right away, but we froze. It's hard to explain, unless you've been there, unless you've seen something that shouldn't exist standing right in front of you. Our brains locked up, still trying to force her into the shape of an old woman, still trying to tell us we weren't seeing what we were seeing. She screamed, not like a human scream, more like metal tearing, like every cry of grief we'd ever heard twisted into one. The cave shook with it. Claire dropped to her knees, covering her ears. Ryan grabbed her, pulling her up, shouting something I couldn't hear over the noise. Daniel just stood there beside me, mouth wide, whispering, "No, no, no." Then she moved. 1 second she was across the chamber. The next she was on Ryan. I barely saw it, just a blur of limbs and teeth and rags. He swung at her, yelling, but she caught his arm in her mouth and bit. The sound was wet and final. His scream cut off into a gurgle. Blood sprayed the rocks. Claire shrieked his name, clawing at the creature, but the Ghoula tossed him aside like a rag doll. I swear to you, his body hit the wall so hard it broke. Claire tried to run to him, but the thing grabbed her hair, yanking her back. I lunged forward, uselessly, because what was I going to do? Punch it? Daniel dragged me by the arm, screaming in my ear, "Run, you idiot, run." And we did, The cave split into tunnels, dark throats leading who knows where. Daniel pulled me down one, our flashlight beams shaking wildly across stone. Behind us, Claire screamed again. Then it cut off, like someone had pressed mute. I'll never forget the silence that followed. The silence that meant she wasn't screaming anymore. We ran until our lungs burned. The tunnels twisted, climbed, dipped. Sometimes the air smelled wet, sometimes like rot. I couldn't tell which way was out anymore. My mind kept flashing with images of Ryan's arm snapping in that jaw, of his eyes when he realized he was already dead. We stopped finally, choking on our breath, light shaking against the stone. Daniel leaned against the wall, sliding down it, his face white. "She's not human," he kept saying. "She's not human, she's not." I told him to shut up, but my voice cracked. Something scraped the stone behind us. We turned our lights, and I swear I saw her just for a moment crawling on the ceiling, her body bent like a spider. The light hit her eyes, glowing back at us, then she was gone, deeper in the shadows. Daniel whimpered. I grabbed his arm and pulled him up. "We can't stop," I hissed. We kept moving, trying tunnels at random, sometimes circling back. Once we stumbled into a chamber with bones, human bones, dozens of them, gnawed, cracked open. The smell hit us first, then the crunch under our boots. I wanted to vomit, but Daniel just stared down, whispering prayers he hadn't said since he was a kid. That's when we heard Claire. Her voice echoed faintly through the tunnels. "Help me." Daniel looked at me, eyes wide. "She's alive." "No," I said. My throat was raw, my chest tight. "That's not her. Help me, please." The voice was closer now. Claire's voice, perfect, the same accent, the same pitch. Daniel started toward it. I grabbed him, begged him not to go. But he tore free, yelling her name. The cave went silent again. Then a different sound, a laugh. "Hi, cruel," echoing off the stone. I ran. God forgive me, I ran. I don't know how long. The cave seemed endless, swallowing time. My flashlight flickered, the beam cutting out until I was in total black, then sputtering back on. I thought I heard footsteps behind me, claws scraping stone, but every time I turned, there was nothing. Or maybe I just couldn't see fast enough. Eventually, I stumbled into a narrow crack, where I had to crawl on my stomach. The rock scraped my arms, tore my shirt. I dragged myself through, praying it didn't dead end. Behind me, I swear I heard breathing, heavy and slow, like something was letting me get just far enough before it reached out. When the crack opened up again, I spilled into a cavern lit faintly by moonlight through a slit above. I sobbed. I actually sobbed because it was the first light I'd seen in what felt like forever. I scrambled upward, clawing at the rock, slipping, cutting my palms. Somehow, I got high enough to squeeze through and drag myself out onto the desert floor. It was night. The stars burned overhead, cruel and bright. The wind was cold, biting through my sweat-soaked clothes. I wanted to collapse, but I couldn't. I knew she was behind me. I stumbled across the sand, not even knowing where I was going, just away, always away. My water was gone, my voice was gone from screaming. My flashlight had died, and the desert was nothing but endless black and silver dunes. And then God, I still don't know if it was real. I heard Ryan's voice. "Hey, man," it said, calm, almost cheerful, "over here." I turned, and he was standing there, whole, smiling. His arm wasn't torn off. His head wasn't broken. He just stood there, like nothing had happened. I ran. I didn't even look back. The desert broke me after that. I wandered until the sun came up, delirious, skin blistering. I saw shapes in the dunes, figures watching me, shadows moving where nothing should move. Sometimes I heard Claire calling my name, sometimes Daniel. Once, I swear, I saw the old woman again, limping just ahead of me, always just far enough that I couldn't catch her. I think she wanted me to follow, but I didn't. I kept staggering, half conscious, until I collapsed. When I woke, I was in a hospital in Ghoula. Some nomads had found me, they said, half dead in the sand, alone, no jeep, no friends, just me. The police wrote it off as an accident, sandstorm, lost tourists, dehydration. They never found the bodies. They never looked hard. Why would they? The desert swallows what it wants, but I know the truth. Something lives out there, in the caves. Something older than the stories, older than Morocco itself. She wears the skin of the weak, the lost, the ones you'd never abandon. She waits for you to make the mistake of caring. And if you hear crying in the desert, if you hear someone calling your name in the dark, don't answer, because it's her, because she's still hungry.